Well, for more technology headlines and Apple's latest offerings, let's head over to New York, where Michelle is standing by. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Mike. Well, Apple and Microsoft are stepping up the tablet wars. Apple has sent out invitations for an event next week, but even though the invitation did not reveal any details, it is expected to be the launch of the smaller version of the iPad, about 7 inches in size. The iPhone maker hinted that something small was in the works. Meanwhile, Microsoft will launch its first tablet 3 days later. The Surface is priced at around $499, and the company is already taking pre-orders. Joining us now to discuss is Brian White, senior analyst at Topeka Capital Markets. Now, Brian coined the phrase iPad mini about a year ago, and he just wrapped up a tour of Apple's Asian component suppliers. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Fresh off the plane, you just had the iPad mini pilot version in your hands. What do you think?
No, I think this will be a big hit. It is a much smaller form factor, just under 8 inches, so 7.85, much lighter. It fits right into your jacket pocket, and I think there's a huge market out there for a product like this.
Well, Microsoft coming up with a Surface. We've got Amazon's Kindle Fire and Google's new Nexus 7 tablet. Is this new Apple mini iPad basically stomping all of these guys out of the sea now?
I think it'll really hurt these competitors. Number one, Apple has #1 market share of 68% in tablets. Number two, they haven't played in the lower price segment, and this gives them an entree into that market.
What about the notion of Apple cannibalizing itself? For example, who's buying the iPod anymore now that all those functions are in the iPhone? If you have the smaller iPad, why spend the extra $200, $300 for the bigger iPad? Is Apple at risk of cannibalizing itself?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they will cannibalize. We've said 10 to 20% of the iPad. So, I think iPad in certain situations, the 9.7 inch has a use case, and I think the smaller iPad has a use case. So we've said education market for the iPad mini, developing countries, people that don't want to spend a lot, and some people will buy both.
Now, as you said, Apple has about 70% of the market share. The only one that's kind of made a little bit of a dent has been Amazon with the Kindle Fire, which is at a lower price point. So is Apple coming out with this lower price point to, in effect, put out Kindle's Fire?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is broaden out the market. We are still very early in the mobile internet ramp around the world. These companies want to get as many devices in the hands of consumers because usually the first device you buy, you continue to go back, and Apple recognizes that. So moving down the price curve is going to broaden their market opportunity. I think they're more interested in doing that than destroying a competitor, but I think they'll end up destroying a competitor.
And in terms of pricing, the iPad is looking at around $249, Google Nexus 7 priced at $199, Amazon Kindle Fire at $159. How much of a difference does that $60, $50 margin make to a consumer at this stage?
I think when people play with this product, look at this product, it will actually have the aesthetics, the back casing of this will actually be a lot nicer than the current iPad. So, not to mention the competitors, right, which the iPad already blows away. So I think this will be a product that most people can afford, and it's going to be much more beautiful, much more useful with a more powerful ecosystem than any of those competitors have.
Now, here's the thing with a 7-inch tablet, 7 inch or so. Steve Jobs famously came out saying that he was against the 7-inch, saying that if you're going to buy it, it needs to come with sandpaper attached so that you can file down your fingers so that they fit the touch screen. Why would Apple go against something that the great visionary Steve Jobs was so outspoken against? Why would they go out and do something against his philosophy?
Well, it's a 7.85 inch, so it's not a 7-inch.
Now we're arguing about a couple of inches.
I think, what Steve Jobs said as he was ill in his final months, he said, do not run Apple the way that you think I would run Apple. Run Apple the way that you think Apple should be run. And that's what they're trying to do right now. So I think they see an opportunity, in the market for a product like this. I remember when he got on the conference call and said this, because we actually had picked up some data points, believe it or not, that there was something smaller, even at that time. And I remember writing a note, and then Steve Jobs said that, and I got a lot of flack the next day. Steve Jobs did not, there's no way they'll come out with it, and here they are. So again, I think they see an opportunity. Steve Jobs wants them to run it the way they think Apple should be run. So.
Steve Jobs wants them from the clouds from heaven, sending his blessing from afar. Thank you so much, Brian White, Topeka Capital Management. And Brian's estimate for Apple stock in a year's time, 1,111. Mike, it's back to you in D.C.
All right.